It was supposed to be just another quiet morning in the courtroom. The judge was about to sign the final order. A man, after 12 years on death row, was moments away from his fate. The room was still, tense, almost silent. And then a sound, a low, deep growl. It came from Titan, a retired K-9 German shepherd sitting quietly in the corner. Suddenly, all eyes turned. The growl grew louder. Titan stood, alert, staring at an old wooden door. No one expected what happened next. What Titan found behind that door would shake the entire courtroom. It wasn't just a clue. It was a missing piece of a puzzle that had been buried for over a decade. This is not just a story about a dog. This is the story of how one loyal K-9 exposed the truth when no one else could. And what happened next will change how you see justice forever. The sky over Louisiana was gray that morning, too still, too quiet, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Inside the courthouse, the atmosphere was heavy. Reporters whispered. Family members sat with their hands clenched. 12 years had passed since the trial began. 12 long years of appeals, delays, and unanswered questions. And now, it was all coming to an end. In the center of the courtroom sat Marcus Bell, a man convicted of crime he always swore he didn't commit. Dressed in a worn orange jumpsuit, his eyes stared straight ahead, not blinking, not shaking, just waiting. Beside him, his lawyer, tired, defeated, flipped through the same documents that had failed him for over a decade. On the judge's bench, the final paperwork rested. All that remained was a signature. One signature. Then the sentence would be official. Death. But as the judge lifted the pen, something unexpected happened. From the back of the room came a low, rumbling growl. Heads turned. It wasn't a person. It wasn't a phone. It was a dog. Titan, a retired K-9 unit from the local sheriff's department. He sat beside an officer, calm all morning until now. His ears twitched. His eyes locked on an old wooden door behind the judge's bench, and his growl deepened. At first, no one reacted. It was just a dog, right? But Titan didn't stop. He stood up slowly, his body stiff, his nose pointing directly at the door. The courtroom froze. Even the judge paused, his pen still in midair. Then Titan barked once. Loud, sharp, purposeful. The sound echoed off the walls like a warning shot. And that's when the secret started to unravel. At first, everyone just stared. A barking dog in courtroom? It didn't make sense. But Titan wasn't just barking. He was alerting. His body rigid, tail stiff, ears locked forward like a soldier spotting danger. And then he moved, slowly, carefully. Titan walked toward the judge's bench, ignoring the officer trying to hold him back. His nails clicked against the old wooden floor with each step. All eyes followed him. And then he stopped in front of an old storage door, one nobody ever paid attention to. It was dusty, painted the same color as the wall, almost hidden in plain sight. "What's he doing?" someone whispered. The judge stood frozen. The clerk hesitated, unsure whether to speak or move. But Titan didn't wait. He pawed at the base of the door, once, twice, then looked back at the crowd, and barked again, louder this time. The officer beside Titan reached for the knob. It creaked as it turned, and the door slowly swung open. What lay behind it was not just old supplies. It was a small, hidden storage space. Dark, cold, smelling faintly of damp paper and something else, something metallic. At the back of the room was a steel filing cabinet, its drawers sealed with a thick layer of dust. "Get the bailiff," someone said. Titan stepped inside without fear. The officer followed, flashlight in hand. He pulled open the top drawer. Inside were case files, boxes of them, unmarked, misfiled, forgotten. But Titan wasn't done. He shoved his nose into the second drawer and barked once more. The officer opened it, slowly. Inside was a file marked in red ink. M. Bell, evidence hold. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. No one had seen this file before. It wasn't in the official records. It wasn't on any digital logs. It shouldn't have existed. But here it was, buried in a drawer no one was supposed to open, and it held more than just paper. The officer's hands trembled as he reached deeper into the drawer. Beneath the file labeled M. Bell, Evidence Hold, there was something else, something heavier. Wrapped in a brown paper bag, aged and crinkled with time, lay a single leather glove, faded, torn at the fingertips, and stained with something dark. "Is that blood?" someone whispered from the back. The courtroom was still. Even the gavel lay untouched. The judge leaned forward. His voice broke the silence. "Where did this come from? This was never logged." No one answered. No one could. The officer unwrapped the glove and pulled out the case file. His eyes scanned the pages. Photos, notes, a list of evidence items. Some crossed out, others never submitted to trial. There it was, the glove, marked as critical, then scratched out. Why? Titan stood still, watching, as if he knew the truth had only begun to surface. The prosecutor stepped forward, pale and shaken. "Your Honor, this evidence, it was never part of discovery. This changes everything." The defense attorney, stunned into silence, now stepped beside the officer. "Permission to review, Your Honor." The judge nodded slowly. Granted. The file was passed over. Inside was a photo, blurry but damning. A man's hand wearing that exact glove. But it wasn't the man on trial. It was someone else. Someone who had testified. Someone trusted. The courtroom gasped again. Eyes turned to the back of the room, where a familiar figure was quietly slipping out the side door. Titan's ears shot up. A low growl rumbled in his throat. The chase had begun. But this was no ordinary pursuit. This was a mission to uncover a buried betrayal. And Titan wasn't letting the truth run away again. The courtroom doors slammed open. Titan lunged forward, teeth bared, eyes locked on the figure escaping through the hallway. The handler gripped the leash tightly. Struggling to keep up, reporters scrambled. Police scattered. But Titan? He followed only the scent of the lie. Outside, the air was thick with tension. Rain began to fall, soft at first, then harder, like justice pounding at the gates. The man in the blue cap ran fast, cutting to the parking lot, leaping over the courthouse fence. His face was hidden. But Titan had already seen too much, smelled too much. He knew this man. Years ago, this scent had lingered at the murder scene. Now it was here again. The officer's radio buzzed. Suspect fleeing west. Request backup. K-9 in pursuit. Titan's paws hit the wet pavement with force. He was trained for this, built for this. But more than training, it was instinct now. Justice had been caged for too long. Across the street, the man disappeared into an alley. Titan paused, nose to ground. A trail of wet footprints, cigarette ash, and something else. A torn corner of a photo. From the case file, the handler picked it up. It showed a child. A small boy standing beside the man in the blue cap. "Who is this kid?" the handler whispered. Before he could process it, Titan let out a sharp bark, then bolted into the alley. The truth wasn't just running. It was trying to disappear forever. But Titan wasn't letting go. Not now. Not when freedom, justice, and an innocent man's life hung in the balance. The alley was narrow, dark, and filled with shadows that whispered stories no one wanted to hear. Titan moved slowly now. His ears were up, his nose close to the ground. Every step was calculated, controlled. Behind him, the handler kept a tight grip on the leash, heart pounding like a war drum. At the end of the alley, a door. Old, wooden, cracked. It looked forgotten, like something no one had opened in years. But Titan stopped, stared, then growled low and deep. The handler froze. "What is it, boy?" Titan's body tensed. His tail dropped. And then, with one paw, he tapped the door once. Silence. Then a soft sound. A cough. Someone was inside. The handler pulled his weapon, pressed his shoulder to the wall, and reached for the radio. "We've got movement. Possible suspect. Requesting backup." He reached for the door handle, rusty and cold, and slowly turned it. It creaked open. And there, sitting in the corner, was a boy, maybe 10 years old. Dirty, shaking, eyes wide with fear. Next to him, the man in the blue cap, hands up, tears running down his face. "I didn't mean for any of this," the man whispered. "It wasn't supposed to happen. I just wanted to scare them." Titan growled again, not out of anger, out of knowing, because this was the missing piece. The boy was a witness, and the man, he was a reason someone innocent had spent 12 years on death row. The handler slowly lowered his weapon. "You're going to tell the truth now," he said, and the man nodded, because when AK-9 freezes at a door, you don't ask questions. You open it and listen to what's been hiding behind it. The interrogation room was silent, lit only by a flickering overhead light. The man in the blue cap sat hunched over, eyes hollow, hands trembling. Across from him, the detective pressed record. A tape began to spin. The handler stood near the door. Titan lay by his feet, calm but alert. No one spoke, until the man exhaled and the truth poured out. "It was never supposed to go that far," he said, voice cracking. "We just wanted him to take the fall to protect someone else." "Who?" the detective asked. The man hesitated, then whispered, "My brother." A pause. Then he continued. 12 years ago, he was drunk, drove straight through that intersection, hit her, panicked. He called me. I was scared. I told him to leave. I planted the evidence on someone else, a man I didn't even know." Titan lifted his head. Even he could feel the weight of those words. The detective leaned forward. "That man, that innocent man, he's been sitting on death row for 12 years. "I know," the man said, tears now running freely, "and it's been eating me alive." The handler stepped forward. "You let him rot in a cell," he said, voice steady. "You watched his daughter grow up without a father. You stood by, year after year, while his name was dragged to the mud." The man sobbed. "I thought I could live with it, but that dog looked at me like he knew." Titan didn't move, but his eyes said everything. The detective stopped the tape. "You're going to testify," he said, "and you're to set this right." Outside, the morning sun began to rise. For the first time in 12 years, there was light on a case that had lived too long in darkness. Thanks to AK-9, who didn't just smell danger, he smelled justice. Deep inside the iron walls of Blackstone Prison, a man sat in a small cell, quiet, still, forgotten by time. His name was Elijah Cross. 12 years ago, he was convicted of a crime he didn't commit, a fatal hit and run. A young woman lost her life. The evidence pointed at him, planted so perfectly, even he started to question his own memory. His daughter was just 5 when he was taken away. Now she was 17, and Elijah had only seen her through glass, heard her voice through a phone, and prayed she would believe in his innocence, when even the world didn't. That morning, a sound echoed down the hallway. Keys, heavy footsteps, then a voice. "Elijah Cross, you've got a visitor." He stood, confused. Visits weren't common. Not anymore. When the door opened, 3 people stepped inside. A detective, AK-9 handler, and a German shepherd named Titan. Elijah's eyes widened, not at the people, but at the dog. Titan sat, staring calmly at him. Not a growl, not a bark, just quiet presence. But in that presence, there was something powerful. The detective took a deep breath. "Elijah," he said, "we know the truth now. A man has confessed. You were innocent all along." Elijah froze. The wall seemed to spin. "What?" he whispered. "What did you say?" The detective continued. "You were framed. The evidence was planted. The real culprit came forward," he said. Titan made him crack. Elijah sank into the chair behind him, trembling. Tears rolled down his face. For the first time in 12 years, someone believed him. Titan walked forward and placed his head on Elijah's knee. It was a small gesture, but it carried more comfort than 1,000 words. The handler spoke softly. "You're going home soon." And just like that, hope returned to a place that hadn't felt in over a decade. Because one dog didn't just find the truth, he gave a man his life back. The interrogation room was dim. Just one flickering light above. And across the table sat a man with trembling hands, Victor Hale, a retired trucker. Quiet, clean record. But behind his eyes, something was hiding. Detective Marlowe leaned forward. You were near the scene. 12 years ago. Why didn't you ever come forward? Victor didn't answer. He kept his eyes on the dog. Titan sat motionless in the corner, watching, listening, like he knew this man wasn't just a witness, but the missing piece. Then something shifted. Titan stood, slowly walked forward. His nails tapped softly against the floor. Victor's breath caught. When the dog stopped and stared into his soul, he whispered, "I didn't mean to kill her." The room fell silent. No one moved. I panicked, Victor choked out. I was drunk. I ran. I saw the man nearby. I left my wallet behind. They found it on him. I thought it was done. I didn't know he'd go to prison for it. Titan tilted his head. No aggression. No sound. Just quiet judgment. Victor's shoulders dropped. I see that dog in my dreams. For years. That look. That silence. Like he's asking why. Detective Marlowe stood, stunned. 12 years of lies, unraveled by a dog's presence. Why confess now, he asked. Victor swallowed hard. Because that dog wouldn't stop looking at me. Not in my dreams. Not here. Titan sat down again. Calm, peaceful, like justice had just exhaled. That night, the official report was updated. Elijah Cross, clear of all charges. Victor Hale, charged with vehicular homicide. It wasn't just a confession. It was closure. And it happened not because of fingerprints or video or testimony, but because one K9 knew how to stare into guilt and never look away. The prison gates opened with a loud metallic groan. For 12 long years, Elijah Cross had dreamed of this moment, but never thought it would come. The sun felt different now. Warmer, brighter, like freedom had its own kind of light. Standing just outside the gate was someone unexpected, Detective Marlowe. And next to him, Titan. The German shepherd sat still, his eyes locked on Elijah. No barking, no jumping, just that steady gaze, the same one that had changed everything. Elijah dropped to one knee. "Hey, boy," he whispered, voice cracking. "You found the truth, didn't you?" Titan walked forward, gently rested his head on Elijah's shoulder. No words could describe that moment. A man once forgotten by the world, embraced by the very creature that saved his life. Marlowe watched, arms folded, emotion in his eyes. "He never gave up," he said softly. "Not on you." A car waited nearby. Not just any car, but one arranged by the state. Inside, Elijah's sister sat, crying silent tears. She had believed in his innocence from day one. As the door opened, Titan paused. He looked back at Marlowe. The detective nodded. "You did your part, soldier," Marlowe whispered. Titan hopped in next to Elijah like he belonged there, because he did. As the car pulled away, the crowd of reporters faded behind. The noise, the questions, the flashes, all blurred into silence. What mattered was this. A man wrongly accused had found justice. A sister had her brother back. And a dog, trained for war, had brought peace to a broken family. Sometimes, heroes don't wear uniforms. Sometimes they wear fur. And sometimes they remind us that even in a world filled with lies and mistakes, truth still has a heartbeat. The courtroom was frozen, every breath held, every eye watching. Then, a bark, loud, sharp, unmistakable. It was Titan. He wasn't barking out of fear. He was calling out the truth. The judge paused. He removed his glasses, his voice shaking. New evidence has come to light. This court finds the defendant not guilty. The room exploded in silence, a different kind of silence. A silence filled with shock, tears, and relief. 12 years, wiped away in one moment. And Titan? He walked up to the man he had saved, placed his head in his lap. Quietly, gently, no fame, no medals, just loyalty. The kind this world forgets too often. But today, justice had a bark, and that bark belonged to Titan. Underscore 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 underscore. Paw Print's call to action, direct voiceover style. If this story touched your heart, don't scroll away just yet. Hit that like button. To honor dogs like Titan who never give up, share this video so more people know what loyalty truly looks like. Como Bilo, do you believe dogs can sense what humans cannot? And most importantly, subscribe now to K9 Miracle Stories, because here we tell stories that make you believe again. K9 Miracle Stories, where every bark is a call for truth.